Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are. Thank you for watching. Why do we always say that? Well, because we have so many people around the world that I know, that I've worked with, and I want to make sure everybody's covered. You can see this morning I'm a little scruffy. It's Monday morning, so I haven't gotten to shave yet for Monday, and I look a little fuzzy. Look, I want to talk today about something that at least I think my ministry people, specifically missionaries and evangelists, are going to understand. And probably some pastors. I don't know that all pastors will, but I think many pastors will. And that is the fact that at one point I asked a pastor, I said, what was the hardest thing about ministry? Because we were just on this weird conversation. And he went down this whole story about the hardest thing about ministry. And it was so impactful what he said. And I was so impressed with it. But it got me thinking too, what's the hardest thing for me in ministry? And you can actually see his interview on our other YouTube channel, which is our Forthright Films channel. And I will post a link below so that you can go check that video out, because his answer was absolutely amazing and powerful. It was part of his testimony and just an amazing thing. But the question was, what's the hardest thing about being in ministry? And there's probably more than one thing if you're honest. Like, there's more than one thing. But one of the things for me, and this isn't meant to be a "oh, woe is me" video or anything, but I'm hoping that it'll help other people in ministry understand they're not alone, that this is something that affects more than just them. And I think that one thing for me has always been the solitude and kind of the loneliness of being in ministry. There's this idea that, well, if you're in missions and whatever, then everybody loves you, and everybody wants to be around you and all this kind of stuff. And the pastor has all the friends because everybody in church is his friend, and so there's that mentality. But really, ministry is very lonely. A lot of pastors that I talk about, well, yeah, Sunday morning I have tons of friends. By Sunday afternoon, they all disappear. And so I don't have friends all week until they need something, until they need counseling or whatever. Then I call my pastor up and I ask him for help. Sorry, allergies, not COVID. And it's a sad thing for pastors specifically, because everybody wants to be their friend at church on Sunday morning, but by Sunday afternoon they just kind of disperse. If they see you in the streets, sometimes they ignore you, or sometimes they want to make sure everybody knows they know you, depending on where their life is and everything like that. But one of the other things, though, for me is in ministry, with being in missions. In missions, you have to raise all your own support, right? There's no way really to make money off of missions, because that's not the goal. You don't go to another country to make money. You don't go to a different people group or whatever. So we do, videos of Native Americans, and that's been kind of becoming our outreach more and more to the point where we're actually kind of backing off of some of the other stuff that I was doing and focusing more on that. But it's hard when you try to raise funds and nobody wants to give funding. Now if I put a dead dog or a dying dog and I say, hey, I want to raise money for this, money falls out of the heavens. Like, it's weird. I have one friend that she takes care of horses, and I'm always impressed, because the moment she says, hey, I got a horse, I need to raise funds for it, people just start throwing money at her. And I'm always like, wow. But yet we're trying to win souls, and we have to fight tooth and nail to get people to give money, unless you go preach somewhere and you make the people feel good, and then, or you minister to them in some way, shape, or form directly, then they're fine to give money. But I honestly, through my years, I can only think, I don't know of any family members outside of my grandma and grandpa who have actually given into my ministry. And if I'm wrong and one of you is watching this, I do apologize, but I don't remember anybody outside of my grandma and grandpa, and then I think my mom and dad have given me some money along the way too, but none of my aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, nieces, any of them have sown into the ministry that I'm doing. And yet most of them are Christian. And I know many other pastors and ministry people go through this. And it's hard because you sit there sometimes and you go, well, wait, what? And then what I think is even harder is when you see they don't support you, but they'll support something else. They'll get behind other stuff. And I've given money to some of my family members in ministry that are in actual ministry, but it never seems to come back. And again, I'm not saying this to put anybody out there or anything like that, but what I'm trying to do is tell past other ministry people that if you're going through this, it's relatable. Like, you're not the only one. What I have found, specifically for those of us who have more of a prophetic gifting and discernment, Jesus says a prophet is not known in his own town. And I can see that. Like, it's very true that the people who know you, they don't sow into your ministry. It's like the people who know you very, like, family, part of the furniture kind of. It's the other people outside of your inner circle that will give into your ministry and things like that. So I'm always surprised by the people who actually do give, because it's not always those that I would expect. It's difficult. It's very difficult. We live in an era right now where people don't sow into ministry to begin with. They just don't. Realistically, the baby boomer generation was fantastic at it. And my generation and younger, we don't have a clue how to give into ministry, and we need to figure that out, because otherwise ministry is just going to be done. At least as we have always known it. We're not supporting ministries the way we should. But the other one too that always bothers me is when I've had people get, I'm going to send you finances, I'm going to send you money, I'm going to send you this, and then it never shows up. It's like, why would you say it if you're not going to do it? Like, I don't understand. Like, if you're not going to do it, then don't say you're going to do it. But I think a lot of times those of us in ministry, we feel alone. And so if you're a pastor, missionary, an evangelist, and you're out there trying to raise funds so you can do the work that God has called you to, I can tell you that God will always provide, even when you don't expect it, and maybe in ways you don't expect it. So I think a lot of it is we have to just step out in faith, and we have to say, look, I'm going to do it. So I'm working right now. There's just a bunch of stuff going on in our lives that it's making it difficult for me to hit the road. COVID, all this other stuff going on. And finally I told my wife the other day, I said, I just got to go. Like, I have to hit the road because we can't. Another missionary friend of mine called me up and said, I need to hit the road again. I can't stay here anymore. It's time to quit sitting around. And, that's the way it has to be. And when we start stepping out, when we start moving, and we start saying, God, I want to honor you, I want to do what you've called me to do, God will supply, and it will be from people you didn't even expect. And, that's always been my prayer is, God, don't give from the people I know, give from the people I don't know, because the people that I do know, they don't get behind me anyway, so why am I going to sit here and say, oh, God, because that would actually be the bigger miracle. Some of you understand that. The people you know, if they gave, that would actually probably be a bigger miracle than a stranger off the street. So, also take time to pray. Pray for ministry leaders. Take time to pray for each other. I can say that in the past, I'm probably not doing it the way I should right now. In the past, I've always been good at keeping a list of ministry leaders and pastors, and I pray for them. And it's something I need to get back in the habit of doing. I kind of fell out of it, but I was really good at it for a couple of years, where I would get up every morning and I had a whole list. And as certain people would come to mind, then I would pray more for them or whatever. But we need to think about ministry leaders and keep them in prayer. Let them know they're not alone. If you know an evangelist, a pastor, a missionary, maybe your pastor's got a full-time paid gig, but take him a meal. Order him a pizza while he's at the church. I don't know, something like that. Just to let him know, hey, you're not alone. And I think you'll see that there's a blessing that comes back even to you. If you give into the ministry, then I believe God gives back. And we see it in Scripture where there's blessings that are prayed for those who give and all that. So if you're a pastor, please don't feel alone. If you're a missionary, an evangelist, you're not alone, even if, sometimes you feel that. there are other people who are going through the same thing. And I think it's just part of the ministry. And I think even Jesus kind of has that. He had the 12 disciples, and I think he still had moments where he seemed to be lonely, and not in a depression state, but where you can tell like Jesus kind of walked by himself quite a bit of the time. The disciples didn't understand what he was there for, and there were some issues like that. So if you are a missionary, an evangelist, a pastor, or some kind of ministry like that, please don't feel alone. And if you need to not feel alone, you got to reach out and talk to somebody. Do that. Reach out to me and other people, because you're not alone, even though sometimes it's one of the most lonely things to be involved with. And I spoke a lot about equating it to financial stuff, but when you're in ministry full time and people won't even give $5, then you really do feel alone. Like it's sad because it's just money. But that becomes kind of powerful to some extent, where you're like, really, $5, and then you see him giving to something else, and you're like, really? But the thing is, it's not the money, it's the loneliness that comes with that. So, if you are one of those ministry people and you say, hey, I do feel lonely, reach out to somebody, reach out to me, reach out to another pastor, and just express it, talk about it. Especially older pastors or people who have been in ministry for a long time, they can really give some guidance to it. And if you know that you're doing what God has called you to do, talking to somebody should definitely be able to help out with that loneliness and that feeling, because they can help you remember that God called you to do this, and that there are moments of loneliness when you follow God. So just pray for you guys that God would send you somebody that you can speak to, that you can relax with, that you can be honest with and be open to. All right, be blessed, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with other ministry people, because you never know who needs to hear it. All right, be blessed, and we will see you next time.